So when they come out here and start pounding the table about Matt Gaetz, nobody believes them.
The more you get to know Matt Gaetz, the less you're going to like him. I'm going to be really surprised if he can get confirmed.
Right, and so would I.
If we had an election on November 5th and November 6th, you've got an answer.
Right.
Don't listen to those people.
Agreed.
A battle over the Matt Gaetz report now underway in Congress. Trump nominated him to reform our corrupt DOJ. He's got a nice pedigree of being on the right side of a lot of issues that we care about here, which is called justice. And now we'll see what happens, because senators are popping up all over the place saying we better get this ethics report because Matt Gaetz might have some nefarious affairs in his history, and we'll talk about it. Now, the question, of course, that we had some time ago is, isn't this report going to come out anyways at some point in time? I mean, stuff always leaks. I have a lot of doubts about any government reports, especially reports that are adverse to Republicans, because we've seen multiple examples of this. We've seen several Trump indictments, actually 4 of them. We read through them. They were a joke. They were rigged partisan attacks on political opponents. We can go through every one of them one by one if you want to. We've done it ad nauseum, but they pass those off as legitimate indictments. So House Ethics Chair says the meeting on the Gaetz report has been postponed. It's not canceled, so they're figuring out what to do about it. His name is Michael Guest. He came out today and said that the group had only postponed, but they haven't canceled the meeting on this. The Mississippi representative called Guest declined to say whether the panel is open to sharing it with the Senate Judiciary Committee, as some senators say they want to see the report as they vet him. And I also don't want to give the Democrats a fake because. I don't want them to come out and say, well, we would vote for him, but we're not going to give him that. Or Republicans, John Cornyn or somebody. Well, I would have voted for him, but we don't have this report in our hands, so I can't. Hey, there's nothing in it, so just vote accordingly. We don't want to give them a bunch of excuses. We've not met as a committee, and so at this point, there's nothing that I'm sure I can't comment about. Noting that the meeting will be rescheduled, Guest also dismissed suggestions that he was worried about retribution from Trump or Trump world. I guess, was that us, I guess? And he said leadership has not lobbied him in one direction or another. I've had no conversations with leaderships about it. Well, Mike Johnson came out, said he's not going to request that the ethics committee, or he is going to request that they not release it. Johnson is here. They say on Friday, today, he said he does not think a House Ethics Committee report on allegations related to Matt should be released. He's going to strongly request that the Ethics Committee not issue the report. Johnson called on the ethics panel to withhold the report shortly after coming back from meeting with Trump at Mar-a-Lago on Thursday, said he plans to speak with the panel's chairman, Michael Guest. So that must have happened after this. Who resigned from Congress to talk about Matt Gaetz, who resigned from Congress, says, I'm going to strongly encourage that the Ethics Committee not issue the report because that is not the way we do things in the House, and I think that would be a terrible precedent to set, so it's a rule now. Johnson's comments also mark a reversal after he said on Thursday, quote, the Speaker is not involved with what happens in ethics. Lots of important reasons for that. Now, since Gaetz has resigned, the probe has ended as the panel only has jurisdiction over the member as they're in Congress. Gaetz is no longer a member of Congress, so they lose. Speaking again to reporters on Friday, after saying he would ask the Ethics Committee not to release the report, Johnson refused to say if he'd spoken to Trump about the issue. He says, I'm not talking to anybody about what I've said to Trump, punks, emphasizing that the Speaker's office has no involvement or understanding of the Ethics Committee's inner workings. He says, Johnson, let me say this. I believe it is very important to maintain the House's traditions of not issuing ethics reports on people who are no longer members of Congress. I think it would open a Pandora's box. It's a very important rule that should be maintained. It has been broken once or twice, and it should not have been. So what I'm saying, said Mike, if someone is no longer a member of Congress, we are not in business of investigating and publishing reports about people who are not part of our institution. The Ethics Committee's jurisdiction is over sitting members of Congress, and if you think about it, this will make sense to everybody. A spokesman from the committee pushed back on this, so someone else says, well, there's a long-standing precedent for releasing ethics investigation materials, so not the report, but the materials that made the report, after a member resigns. The now former congressman shouldn't be able to resign away an ethics investigation when there's grave misconduct, especially since he's going to be a top law enforcement officer, right? And this is what the Democrats are just going to keep hammering over and over and over again. Now, there is a bipartisan support for the Senate committee, right? So the Republicans will join in this. The ethics panel, you'll get the squishy Republicans. You're going to get Murkowski and Collins saying, well, we should see it. The ethics panel had been due to meet this week to vote on releasing a report addressing the allegations, according to multiple sources, but committee Republicans canceled the scheduled meeting on Friday with Democrats after meeting on Thursday. The Senate Judiciary Committee requested on Thursday that they immediately preserve all documents, and the Senate, they said, has a right to request this. Now, the Ethics Committee said in June that it had been probing allegations that Gaetz may have engaged in, improper gifts, misconduct with intercourse, special privileges, bunch of stuff. He's denied all of these things, and he deserves the presumption of innocence. Now, Democrats are beginning to openly question the timing of the resignation, and Nancy Pelosi is suspicious about it too, but all right. So Jamie Raskin's coming out. He says, it defies belief that anyone could become the chief law enforcement. All right, so here we go. Raskin's coming back out, and the rest of it is there. Now, here's Byron York, and he's making a similar point. He says, to many of you out there, the president nominates Congressman X to be the attorney general, the opposition party, so this is Gaetz, and some in the president's party oppose the nomination. A contentious confirmation hearing looms, as we talked about. Meanwhile, then he resigns. There's a written report, hasn't been released, and all it's going to do, he's making the same point, that it's in the public interest to release this, and if you release it now, it might be no big deal, right? That's the draw, the sting point. If that is the case, Republicans will dismiss it, not going to be a big deal, but this thing might continue to compound as the days go by. And the point about Durbin and these others, okay, these senators who are going to be crying foul, this is the problem, right? This is the lesson from the parable about the boy who cried wolf. If you cry wolf, nobody's going to believe you ever. And they've been screaming about Matt Gaetz for years and Republicans for years. And so the reports that are published, 4 indictments that they dropped, the civil complaint filed against Trump, right? The J6 prosecutions, they're still arresting NFL players for crying out loud as of 2 days ago or a week ago. We just learned about it 2 days ago. It's constant. So when they come out here and start pounding the table about Matt Gaetz, nobody believes them anyways. All right, whatever. You guys would have prosecuted him if there was something serious here. And now when you are raising the red flag of alert, right, nobody believes you. Here is one senator from Wisconsin.
We have a responsibility as the Senate, as senators, to confirm those who are qualified for their posts and to reject those who are not. And it seems to me that President Trump in that particular nomination, as well as some others, are, he's nominating folks that are in that latter category. And by the way, on Matt Gaetz, you were talking about the ethics report. I think it would be absolutely essential in investigating his background and his qualifications to have access to that full report from the House.
Yeah, and this will be curious because it's not about the Democrats, right? This might be one of the most contentious AG nominations in recent memory, like by a vote or two. We've got 53 in the Senate right now, and the Democrats are trying to claw back the Pennsylvania seat. But there are forces that want to stop Matt Gaetz. I'm surprised that Kevin McCarthy's still in the country. He hates Matt Gaetz so much, the idea of Matt Gaetz being the attorney general. I figured McCarthy was going to be over there with Edward Snowden in Russia. But he's here, apparently, hanging out with Bloomberg. He says Matt Gaetz will never get confirmed.
We've had names like Rubio, Waltz, Gaetz even. I mean, what do you make of the choices so far?
I think the choices are very good except one. Look, Gaetz won't get confirmed. Everybody
That's
knows
what you
that.
think,
But when
bucko.
you look at a Rubio, just the knowledge that he has, being in the Intel Committee, I was on the Gang of Eight, and his understanding, even when you listen to the other side of the aisle, they say he'll make a great Secretary of State. So that's strong for me. A Waltz, just his background, from a Green Beret and others being. But John Radcliffe at CIA, former DNI, that's very strong. And the difference is to what was 8 years ago today, President Trump understands the job. He knows the people that he needs around him to get there. And I think he's going to be much better prepared because he only has one term, but he'll hit the ground running this time.
You say Gaetz will not be confirmed. Why bother with the nomination then?
Yeah, because he might get confirmed. And Kev is maybe engaging in a little bit of wishful thinking there, Kev. All right, so here's Trey Gowdy. Oh, here he is. Talking about Matt Gaetz. And these two guys don't like Matt Gaetz either because they're part of the McCarthy crew.
The more you get to know Hexeth and Tulsi Gabbard, the more you're going to like. The more you get to know Matt Gaetz, the less you're going to like him. I'm going to be really surprised if he can get confirmed.
Right, and so would I, especially after how he blew up Kevin McCarthy. I had no plan B. You thought it was a lethal blow to the House majority, but it turns out America really wanted Republicans in charge. So we'll see where that goes.
All right, so thanks, Trey Gowdy, for your great analysis. That guy's hair's taller than mine. Will you calm down already over there, Trey? You look ridiculous. So meanwhile, Jen Psaki is trying to figure out what to do with all this misinformation. And she says we should be censored because we're having too much fun and we're too right all the time. Isn't it fun being right all the time? These people have to pass laws to stop us from being right so much.
One of the things that's changed even since I got involved in politics is just the rise of the percentage of people who get their information off of platforms that have no fact-checking mechanism and no accountability for having disinformation spread, right? And as you know well, and I mean, when I got started in Democratic politics, most of it was like local TV ads. That was what it was about. Obviously, national TV, local print. Those local TV is held to a higher standard of accountability than social media platforms in terms of having accurate information on their platforms. That is crazy. And so it is, how does it change? How are people held to account? Laws have to change.
All right, now here's AOC. She's also trying to figure this out and saying that they're paying too much attention to Trump or something like that. Here's AOC also figuring it out with this Trump impersonator.
Vote for Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And I think that, of course, is the question.
It makes no sense.
And I think part of it has to do with the fact, and I think we're still in a process of going through the data. It's important to say that. Yes. And I actually think that it's important to say that the people who are rushing to say, let me give you my grand theory of what's going on right now.
The problem is you went too woke. Sorry, Kamala Harris was running with Liz Cheney at her side. She wasn't going quote unquote woke.
Okay, so that's incredible. They weren't woke enough is where she's going with this. Kamala raced to the middle. They had Mountain Dew. Tim Walz was drinking Mountain Dew. He was out there not shooting animals, not shooting pheasants, walking around with his gun, wearing camo hats. They thought that was going to be enough. Making fun of his cooking. Like that's what happens to white people or something. I don't know. Strange times. But they also brought Liz Cheney out, which was a disaster. I can't believe they thought that was an amazing thing.
If we had an election on November 5th and November 6th, you've got an answer.
Right.
Don't listen to those people.
Agreed.
Do not listen to those people.
It's pretty simple. You guys are incompetent. Your policies have failed and your ideology leads to worse lives for people. So you should fix those things and maybe you'll win elections.
So I want to say that we should all have the humility of saying this is an ongoing learning process. However, there is something to be said about it doesn't matter that he's lying. He's saying that I'm fighting for you. In all of this debate that people are talking about with this woke thing, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's because we care about trans people and that's why.
And by the way, only Donald Trump cared about trans people because he was the one running $130 million worth of ads. The Harris campaign said nothing about this issue.
That's right. That's right. And
she did, actually. She said she wanted to fund the trans surgeries for inmates. She's on video. It was in the ad that they spread all over the place so that people know who she is.
Listen, the ads, it's not to even deny the fact that these ads were effective in certain areas. What I think people are paying too much attention to is the first half of that ad that said Kamala Harris is for they, them. Everyone's focusing on that. They're not focusing on the second half of that ad where he said Donald Trump is for you.
Yeah.
And Democrats very often in their messaging, they speak and in terms and in concepts
in useless
and not
platitudes.
In the second person.
Oh, wow. So they figured it out. They're going to change their grammar. Wow. Amazing. Here, listen.
I care about you. And political races are not about one candidate versus another candidate. Too often it gets pigeonholed like that.
They are, though.
It is a race to convince a person about who cares about you more.
Okay, so they're going to just change their messaging. It's a marketing problem because they are just so disconnected from reality that they can't understand the true nature of their own incompetence. But what's hilarious about this is apparently AOC deleted the pronouns from her X account. So this was AOC version 1, U.S. Representative, NY, Bronx and Queens. She says, in a modern, moral, and wealthy society, no American should be too poor to live. All right, well, are we in one of those things? Like, do we have a wealthy society? Our nation is $30 trillion in debt, spending a new $1 trillion every 100 days. So again, she just got done telling us about dumb platitudes, one of the dumbest platitudes you've ever seen right there in her bio. She says she's people funded, no lobbyist, doesn't even pay back the retailers that she steals her dresses from. And here she had she, her in her profile. But guess what? After President Trump won the election, she realized America is going to be great again. We're going to start calling women women, and we're going to say that they're beautiful, and we're going to hold the doors open for them even longer than before, and we're going to be proud to do it. And we're going to lift tons of weights, wear collared shirts, and have jacked biceps all over the place. So what she did is removed it. Gone. She, her. Deleted. That was a fun fad. It's gone already. So that didn't last long. Well done, AOC. So maybe that will help win them some more elections. But we also have people like John Brennan. He's on with MSNBC. We'll listen to him. Here's John.
Director Brennan, your thoughts about Tulsi Gabbard?
Well, Nicole, I think you and Tom Nichols have done a great job just underscoring all the concerns that people have about this appointment. Clearly, Tulsi Gabbard has taken actions and made statements over the past several years that really raise serious questions about her common sense, her judgment, as well as her political sympathies. Cozying up to Putin as well as to meeting with Bashar Assad, I think really does show that she doesn't have the type of perspective that is needed for somebody who's going to head up these 18 intelligence agencies. And as Tom Nichols said, she doesn't have any qualifications. The Director of National Intelligence, that's a really serious position and a very complex and complicated one.
Yeah, you guys work so hard together as ex-intel agents to rig elections, including here in America. Very complicated.
That requires somebody who actually has an understanding of the intelligence community.
No, we want them to be outside of the intelligence community. Sorry, John. You better get ready, bucko, because they're going to be investigating you soon enough for what you've done to this country.